Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll give a moment or so for people to show up. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm just outside here, just outside of Chicago, and I'm keeping my eye on the weather because I think we're maybe at a tornado risk today. So
I heard about that.
Okay. Well, I guess we can go ahead and get started. So why don't I go ahead and introduce ourselves? Let's see. Are our slides being shown? I think so. Yep. There we go. Perfect. Well, nice to chat with all of you. My name is Matt Dugan. I am Vice President of Data and Intelligence here at Muck, and I'm happy to share the stage with a friend and colleague, and I'll let Michael introduce himself here as well.
Thanks, Matt. Michael Brito. I work at Zeno Group. I lead our data team as well. And yeah, excited about this partnership and conversation. It's definitely overdue.
Cool. Yeah. And as it says right here on the label, we're here to talk to you about vibe coding. And vibe coding is a word that has just kind of come into existence. In fact, I have access to a tool for media monitoring. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's a tool called Muck, shameless plug. And that what I built this little graph to basically see how often have people mentioned vibe coding in the media over the last couple of years. And it would be no surprise that this phrase didn't exist until actually it was one of the kind of pioneers in AI. He now works at Anthropic and used to work at Tesla and used to work at OpenAI. He kind of coined the term, and it has blown up. And the coolest thing about vibe coding is that it does not require an engineering background, a software background. Of course, those things can maybe help, and it may change the way that you frame things, but it's very open to everyone. And so that's why Michael and I are super excited to kind of share with all of you how we think about vibe coding and how everyone can get started.
What's funny is Matt, about this whole, you said no engineering background. I mean, I failed math in high school twice, algebra. And so here I am leading a team of, data intelligence. I think it's just democratized innovation. I don't know your experience. I'm sure you'll share it, but like when I started doing vibe coding, I ended up like taking up the whole weekend. And it was like, hey, family going out on, on a picnic or going to the movies. I'm like, no, I'm going to stay in the office and because I actually built something and it was usable. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Addicting.
Yeah. I it's funny. It's kind of like one of those, I remember where you were moments. I had the same thing. And even for me, like I do professionally, I do write code a little bit, and so I have that background, but it's still much faster to do things this way. And so when I kind of heard people talking about it, and it had kind of been one of those things like, okay, I got to try this at some point. Okay, I got to try this at some point. And then I remember fully diving in, and once you kind of see the light, there's no going back. So we're really excited. We hope, I think I speak on behalf of Michael as well, we hope to give some of you on the call that moment today, so that some of you guys can get the bug, as it were. So what is it? Well, I guess maybe the most important thing to understand is like you do need access to some tools, and many of these tools are freely available, to be clear. And also, I have to say, as a good citizen of any company, be sure to check with your company and your IT teams about whether these tools are available to you guys. But surely one of them are. And the reason why we put this slide together is because this field and term is so new, as we show here. Like, it literally didn't exist 18 months ago. There's kind of, not everybody means the same thing, or not everybody, is referring to the same thing when they use the term vibe coding. I would say even the term vibe coding is just a vibe in and of itself. It's not necessarily a strict, rigorously defined thing. So what we've done here, we just put together like a couple kind of categories of like the way that, I mean, these are kind of the categories in my brain. These are not rigid categories either. It's just kind of a few different ways to think about it. You could do anything from just build an app. There are also some things that are a little bit more drag and drop type of experience. And then the AI programming partner, this is kind of the key tool for a lot of software developers. They work inside these tools. And I think, Michael, are you going to show us, you're going to probably show us Cursor, is that right? Or?
I'm not going to show Cursor.
Oh, okay.
No. Yeah.
Okay, no worries. And then workflow automation tools. So I think many of you might have integrations with Zapier or Zapier. The pronunciation is debated in your companies or in your Slack. So these are all different tools. I encourage you to kind of look at them. I know for me, my kind of personal favorite is Claude. So definitely I'm going to be spending some time demoing Claude. I'm going to be basically doing a demo that's kind of along the lines of that first rung of our ladder here, this chat to app builders. We're gonna, alongside me, we're gonna just describe something to an AI system, and we're gonna build it. And the thing that I'm gonna help build is gonna be something that's very much through a PR and communications lens. And so hopefully you all will find it quite interesting. And so I think without much further ado, Michael's actually going to show us, get us started with an example of how you might vibe code something or how you might build something. And I think to kick it off, I think, Michael, you wanted to describe kind of this workflow here that you're thinking about.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Matt. So what I'm gonna do is, we've all been heard the GEO conversation. I mean, it's everywhere. Muck has an amazing capability built in, but not everybody can access an enterprise platform, right? It's expensive if you're a small business or you're a consultant or a student. Well, actually, if you're a student and your instructor is using Muck, then maybe. But in general, not everybody has access to a enterprise platform like Muck. So what I want to do is I want to just show you how I would do this. And I've been playing around with this for a while. I built a dashboard in Claude. It took me about 5 minutes. And I used ChatGPT for the prompt creation. I did it specifically for Perplexity. So I used Perplexity's agentic workflow to ping the engines a set of prompts related to the brand Viore. So if you work for Viore, they're not a client. I would love for them to be a client. But if you work for Viore, again, it's one of my favorite brands. So that's why I chose Viore. And then I used Claude to actually build the dashboard. And I stopped there for the purposes of this demo. What I would then want to do essentially is if I want to host this on a domain or outside of Claude, I would use a cursor and I would put it through GitHub to get it hosted on Vercel or something like that. So a lot of stuff there, but I'm going to stop at the third one here. And if we can just go ahead and stop sharing, and I'll present my screen just to kind of get into this. All right, share screen. Which screen do I want to share? I want to share this one. Okay. You should all be able to see my screen. There we go. All right, I'm going to drop in a couple things to just show you the first part of this. Okay. So what we're looking at here is essentially a custom GPT or I'm sorry, a ChatGPT project. And what I want to just emphasize and just show you a couple of things when I create a project, and this is the same for Claude and other platforms where they have project capabilities. Notice here in the memory, I created project only, and that just allows the AI to reference anything and everything in that project and not outside of the project, because this project is simply for building sentiment prompts for comment. You can't change this after you create a project. You have to select memory right when you do. And if you mess up, it's okay. You just create a new project, not a big deal. So this is the prompt. I'm going to actually show you the prompt in a second. But this is what I use to generate a prompt that then I use in Perplexity. So I'll make these prompts available to you if you'd like, and I'm just going to show you what they are. So what we're looking at here are the custom instructions for this ChatGPT project. So I'm basically telling it from here down what I want it to do. Okay. So again, I'm not going to go through this in detail. It's pretty long, but I'm going to show you the output. Okay. So I'll actually go to this chat here. And this was
just to quickly interrupt, Michael, what you're showing here, like this screen here, this is just regular old ChatGPT that
regular
everyone,
old ChatGPT.
yeah.
Regular old
Cool.
ChatGPT. You can use it. I think you can even create a project with the free version of ChatGPT. So here's the output. After I kind of told it what I wanted to do, here's the output for the the comment instructions. I'm just going to show you a version here just so you can see it. So this is what we're looking at. We're running this workflow. There's a couple things that are important here. And again, I'm not going to go through it, but this is what I drop into Perplexity's Comet and the browser that they have. And you see the prompts here. And let me show you what that looks like. Okay. So this is Perplexity's Comet browser. Notice in the top, I have a tab, right? This research, it's a folder rather. In the folder, I have, I don't want to show you the dashboard yet. In the folder, I went to ChatGPT, I went to Perplexity, and then I went to Google AI summaries. So I logged in purposely first, and I put them in this folder called research. In my prompt, I reference the three tabs, the three models, and this research folder. And I basically dropped the entire, so if you look here, I dropped the entire prompt into I opened up a new browser because that's just, I don't like things that are messy. So I opened up a new tab rather, and I dropped this in, and it took about 5 minutes. And it gave me, so what I asked it to do was, what is the sentiment of people about Viore joggers and, hoodies for men? And so it gave me kind of this aggregate engine analysis. It captured 12 responses. It wrote me an executive summary. It gave me some kind of a net sentiment score as well as an aggregate score. So it's kind of long and wordy. Obviously, I wouldn't want to send this to a client as is. It's a snapshot. It's a 1-day snapshot across ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Google AI summaries on 5 prompts or 4 prompts, 3 engines, 12 responses, and they're probably already changing, right? And I'll plug Muck because they do have a GEO capability. You'd want to collect data over time to find patterns. This is if you have, you're walking into a client meeting, or you're going into a pitch a company, or maybe you're a consultant and you're going to go talk to a company. Run a few prompts like this just to get a basic understanding of how the models are referencing Viore. So it gave me some dominant narrative themes. That's actually in the prompt that I asked it to give. It gave me some framing, and again, at that point, I was like, okay, this is great. I want to visualize this. So what would this look like if I were to just take, because I could visualize this in Perplexity. They used to have their labs. It's called something else now. It's not bad. It's not terrible. I prefer Claude. It's just very good at even UI. You give it minimal instructions. You got a good UI. It looks great. I dropped it into here, and I'm unfortunately I have to show you this, but let me just show you the prompt here. I took the output from Perplexity and I said, use the below data to create an interactive dashboard for the brand Viore. And all I did was use Viore brand colors. I could have uploaded the colors. I could have took a screenshot of their homepage. I could have gave it, hex color information. All I said was use Viore colors. And I chose Opus 4.8. And that is the output. And then it, in one shot, in probably 10 minutes, it gave me this dashboard. So, and it's interactive. So there's not a lot of visuals on it except this homepage, right? I didn't give it any direction. I could have, but this is, this would have taken months of development work, just to even think about the data collection, what platforms, how do we visualize, where do we host? This took me a minimum of 15 minutes to go from prompt creation in ChatGPT to running the workflow in Perplexity to dropping the output into Claude and asking it to create this dashboard. So it is in Viore colors. And if you go, it has different tabs. So these are the themes of the models and the answers. So the answers from the models. It's clustering them into these themes, positive. I mean, it's all filtered. I mean, it's pretty phenomenal. Any potential risks, right? So it's giving me these, a scale here from 0 to 5, and some competitive data. I didn't ask it for competitive data, but the models will always give competitive data. When you ask about a brand, they'll say like, oh, well, did you hear about Alo Yoga? And Alo Yoga has similar this, similar that, or Lululemon. So it gave me that. And so these are things I didn't necessarily ask for. I didn't put into any like requirements document. I could have. But this is it. I mean, this is so what I would do now, and I'm just about done. I'll pass it over to Max. He's going to show some cool stuff. Is what I would do now is if I wanted to host this, by the way, this is not real time, right? This is a one data set at one point in time. It's not going to continue to collect data over time. But if I just wanted to show a client or a new prospect, or you just want to impress your significant other, parents, what I would do is I would download this file. So you could download the code here, download a JSX file. And at that point, Cursor and Matt on the previous slide had showed that is more of a development. I don't write code. I mean, I can spot code and I can understand why there might be a bug or something, but I can't write code. Cursor is text to development. So I can text things or use whisper flow, which we're going to show in a second, and verbally tell the model, build me a dashboard, or here's a file. I can save this JSX file, import it into Cursor, and say, hey, help me create a path so that I can upload this to Vercel through GitHub and have it hosted in like 15 minutes. And it's all free. It's crazy how you can host. Now there are some limitations, but I can host this dashboard and send it to Viore. And if you work at Viore and you're watching, email me, we'll talk about it. And get it hosted like literally within minutes, within hours. So that's all I wanted to share. I hope it was useful. Like there's a lot of different, ways to kind of think about this. This is the way I would do it. And I'll pass it back over to Matt and so that he can kind of go through his demo now.
Yeah, that was awesome, Michael. I guess one of the things too, just to kind of add on to that and kind of clarify too, when Michael's talking about hosting, essentially what he means is, so like when he's got that screen that he's showing, like, even though it looks like it is a dashboard and something that you'd see on a website. Technically, there's no like website link that you could go to, at least yet, to see that thing that Michael was showing. That's just a thing that like lives on his computer only and can't be accessed by anybody else. And that's still useful too. In fact, like the demo that I'm going to share, my kind of idea is like I'm building just like I'm a PR comms person working at a brand, and I'm just going to build like a little tool that's useful for me. So sometimes when you're building a tool like this, you build something for yourself. You don't need it to live on the web. You just have it on your own computer and you're happy. But I think, yeah, Michael's raising a good point that depending on what you're building, you might want to be shareable via a website. And that's where that term kind of like hosting comes in. And Michael was mentioning that other tool called Vercel. Let's see. I did see a question. Yeah, Michael, can you address maybe the question about Perplexity versus ChatGPT in here? I don't know. Can you see the question?
Yes, I do. Ellen, hi. I prefer Perplexity, Comet's browser agentic workflow. You can do the same thing in ChatGPT and Claude. I don't know about the free version or not, but I downloaded the Comet browser, and I do pay for Perplexity for a license for $20 a month, I believe. And I just prefer it. It was one of the first browsers that came out first, AI browsers, but there's, ChatGPT has Atlas as well. Chrome, I believe, is building that. That's what I chose. But you have done the same thing in any of these other models. And yes, happy to share the prompts. If I can share my email, or we can connect on LinkedIn, and I'll drop those prompts in for you to use.
Great. Okay, cool. Well, let's keep on rolling. So we'll go back to the slides for just a minute before I go to another demo. And so I wanted to kind of touch on one of the things that Michael mentioned. So let's see, recapping. Okay, Michael just showed us we can create these cool little screens. And remember, like, in order for Michael's dashboard, the beautiful in proper brand colors, I love it, dashboard, remember, he had to do that little stage of data collection where he was kind of running through his combination of ChatGPT and Perplexity to do a little bit of data collection. I think that's a really good example, especially because Michael kind of split it across multiple tools. So what we actually saw in real time was the iceberg, and Michael's third little tool was building that tip of the iceberg, the things that we see on the outside, the dashboards, the notifications, the insights. I don't think, we didn't have any notifications per se in your tool, but you could imagine like you had some of those cool insights and dashboards. That's just the surface of any application that any of us always use. And data is like the big meat that lives behind any application. This is true of course, Muck. This is true of anything that we're using. I'm just looking at my own browser right now. I've got a tab open for Google Calendar and Google Slides. Like, these slides are built in Google Slides. Sure, Google Slides, it looks like this app that you're clicking around in, but really under the surface, Google Slides is just a huge database of what is the text on this slide and how many slides do you have and what are the images. It's just, the whole thing is just built on data, and then like a little bit of button clickies here and there to kind of help our users manipulate the data. And so once you kind of see the world through that lens of like all that any software application that any of us use every day is just like a whole bunch of data and then like a thin layer to kind of click around and manipulate the data, it starts to make you think about vibe coding in a different way too. It's like, okay, I can vibe code something, but yikes, in order for it to be really useful and really meaningful, I got to get the data from somewhere. I have to have some useful and meaningful data. So now let's pivot to, I'm actually going to do a quick demo. And if we can stop sharing that, and then let me get this screen share going. So let me do this. I go present here, and I go share screen. Say share screen. And then I do, this should work. So this is just an example view into some, you can see here I have some fake airlines, but this is just a quick view of a tool that Muck offers to help brands see, where both Michael and I are doing demos around what do AI systems say about brands, because that's obviously very top of mind. And so I'm not going to go through and demo this whole tool, but what I will say, what it does is it collects a bunch of AI responses about brands. Like in this particular example, I've got thousands and thousands of AI responses that are mentioning airlines. And in particular, what we in comms and PR like to focus on a lot is like, what are the cited sources that are driving those those AI responses? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at like some of these. You'll see here, I've got these top cited journalists. I've got these top cited media outlets. I'm going to actually use Muckrak's tool as an example to, you'll see we have an export button, export all cited URLs. So basically what I'm going to share is a way to kind of like take the paradigm that we were just talking about vibe coding and kind of like make it super stronger. In fact, actually, to go back to the slide, sorry, Jenny, to make you keep going around, but I appreciate you. Like my section is kind of going to be like leveling up with even more data. So the concept is like, yep, vibe coding is awesome. Love it. How can we make our vibe coding tools that we are vibe coding with our vibes? How can we make them even stronger? And I think that's what we do with more data. So you just saw me in that other application. I just actually downloaded a big export from Muck. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and I'm going to do this again. So forgive me, Jenny. I'm going to share this screen. I'm going to go here. So any of you can totally do what I'm about to do. I'm literally just on claude.com/download, and they have this desktop app. This is the one, I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to use this. The app itself is free, and you can do a lot of what I'm going to show on just literally the free Claude account. So you can go download that. You don't have to do it in real time. I'm not going to be pausing to wait for everybody to catch up, but I do want to just convey that like this is a very easy tool to go download. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to go to my other screen share here. Share screen. Share screen. And I'm going to share this. So all I'm going to do on my Mac is I am going to take that file that I exported from Muck. It's right here. And I'm just going to, I made a new folder. It's an empty folder on my computer. It's called Doing It Live, because that's what we're doing. And if you understand the reference, kudos to you. So I am going to copy this file. Again, this is just a file that I pulled from Muck, and I'm putting it in the folder called Doing It Live. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to share one more screen. Bear with me. So I'm going to stop sharing this. I'm going to go here. I'm going to share one more different screen. Now I'm actually, oops. Sorry, got it. It's coming. I share screen. I go here. And I'm here. Perfect. Okay, so now I am in Claude. I'm in that thing that I just showed you how to download, claude.com/downloads. So I've got a couple previous sessions here. You can see them on the side. These ones weren't actually tests. They were me doing real work, but I didn't want to reveal what it was, so I changed the name to test. And so what I'm going to do is I'm opening up a new session. So I just click new session. And then what I'm going to go do is I'm going to open the folder on my computer that is the folder that I want. So I'm going to do Doing It Live. And so hopefully you can see here that now I'm basically pointing Claude at this folder at my computer. That's like an important thing to understand, is that Claude kind of exists within a folder on your computer. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about this like made up scenario that I'm inventing that I'm going to try to solve for. So remember how I said like I was using this Muck tool, which keeps track of all these different links from around the internet that AI systems are citing around my fictional airline brand. So let's say my job, let's say I'm in PR and comms at one of these fictional one of these fictional airline brands. Maybe I have this thing where like, at the first of every month, or at the, maybe every Monday, I have to post in the company Slack channel, and I have to say, hey, these are the top most influential sources in our space to AI right now. And I want to be able to just be super lazy and have like a post that I can share in my company Slack channel, so that I can just kind of copy and paste it and just be on my way and never have to think about it again. And it's really useful because then all my peers can get quick, easy access to like all these influential AI sources. So what I'm going to do, and pray for me here because I'm really, really doing this live. I am going to use this little microphone button that's at the bottom of Claude here, and I'm just going to describe in real time, and surely I will say the word and probably it's going to get some of my words wrong, but I'm going to describe the application that I want to make. So I'm literally going to hold record, and we're going to do that in real time. Okay, so let me just collect my thoughts first. I am a PR or comms professional at a major airline company, and I have access to a bunch of URLs that AI tools are citing when they're talking about airlines and airline brands like the one that I work at. I have an example of that data in this folder for you to go look at and get familiar with. And then I like to pause just to make sure that if I mess up, I can start without having to lose too much. Okay, so now I'm going to tell it the next thing I want to do. I want you to help me build an application that I can use at the beginning of every month to share some of the top cited media articles with my peers at my company. You'll help me build something so that I can just quickly copy paste a message in my company Slack. Okay, so I've given it some context, given it some background. Now I'm just going to describe kind of exactly what I want the app to do. At the top, we'll kind of have step one, which is basically a little box where I can upload the file that I've downloaded from Muckrack. Again, you can use the one that's already in the folder as a reference, but ultimately when I'm using this every day, I will just attach a file that I've exported from Muckrack. Okay, then I'm going to tell it to do this. Then sometimes when I write these Slack posts, I like to split things up into different categories. So can you let me input some different categories? Since I'm in airlines, I'll probably have categories like, you know, loyalty points. And then maybe another category will be reliability of flight schedule. And then maybe another category will be in-flight entertainment. But I want to be able to define those categories myself. Okay, and then I'm going to, whoops, press the wrong button. Then as we're going, you know, I want you to show me all of these URLs, but grouped by the domain. So I should be able to go domain by domain, sorted in order of how often each domain is cited. And they kind of start as a collapsed view. And then I can click into each domain, and then you'll show me each of the articles in ranked order of how often the individual articles on that domain are cited. And for each of those individual links, you'll let me apply the categories that we just did in the second step. Oh boy, I see we have an issue here. There we go. Okay, and then we're almost done. Then after I've gone through and I've tagged some of the links and tagged some of the articles, I'll be able to click, you know, done or submit, and you will generate me my nice Slack post. And, you know, I'm a very friendly guy at the company, so make sure that that Slack post has a bunch of emojis and fun stuff in it. All right, guys, we're going to see what happens here. So I am going to literally just press go and see what happens. And in case it epically fails, I, just like any good cooking show, I do have one pre-baked in the oven here. But hopefully you get the idea of, like, it's literally that simple. You guys just saw me talk to this thing. You saw me pull this data out of Muckrack. And hopefully what you'll see is that kind of my premise here of, like, okay, when we take real data and a bunch of big data, like all this stuff that I'm exporting from Muckrack, we can quickly, like, make sense of it and make our vibe coding tools even better by giving it a bunch of data.
While it's doing that, Matt, I just want to say my family thinks I'm crazy because I use voice to text or speech to text for emails and Teams, and and so they hear me talking to and commanding my computer screen, so they all think I'm nuts.
Yeah, it's funny. I have the same thought. Is sometimes, because again, to your point, Michael, like, we're all kind of changing our behavior around this stuff a little bit. So I used to not do speech to text much until I really got into using it more in, like, these type of scenarios. And yeah, I still remember the one day where I was just like, I left my office and my wife was just like, "Who are you talking to?" So yeah, very good. Okay, it is working here. For the sake of you know, not painting you guys with the waiting, it's not going to take too long. I will update you when it's done. But what I'm actually going to do is I'll just show you the one that I did right before this, which was, again, truly like the exact same prompt from me. Let me go here and show this. Share screen, this. Okay, so here it is. Again, it just made this, and this lives on my computer. So I can, like, say, let's clear all data. I'll start from scratch. So I can choose a file. I'll choose that file that I just exported from Muckrack. I can define my tags. So, you know, remember my scenario. I might have loyalty programs, or I might have, and I spelled it wrong. Loyal. I'm not much of a speller. Here, hold on. Let's go.
What's cool about this is even if it lived just in Claude and you had, like, Claude Cowork, you could share this app with other team members and add different files, and it could be more robust, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely. Okay, what's going on here? Do we have a bug? Hold on, let's try this one more time. This is the problem with doing it live, gang. Oh, I see here. My mistake. Okay, so here we go. So let's try points is maybe a category, and then let's do I don't know, maybe I might have like competitor posts is a
Complaints.
category. What was another one?
Complaints.
Complaints, love it. Complaints. I'll just do schedule or safety, whatever. These might be my categories. Who knows? And so then here's me. I'm getting ready to post my Slack post within my company. So like, oh, okay, Nerd Wallet, like maybe we partner with some of those folks, especially on our loyalty programs. Okay, so here, this one's talking about points. Ooh, this one's talking about entertainment. Like, oh yeah, I forgot to add a category for that. So let me go add entertainment. Okay, add that tag. You see I spell everything wrong. Whatever. So, okay, so you can imagine, look, I'm just going to go through here. I'm just going to do some things really quick. Let's go through another one. Here's my competitor. They're showing up quite a bit. The points guy, probably a lot more stuff about points. JD Power, maybe this is about, I don't know, complaints, safety. I'm just making this up right now just so that you guys can see what happens when I go to the bottom and click generate summary. And here we go. It's got my nice little Slack post that I can send to my company. Everyone at my company can see top 3 sources moving the needle, competitor posts, all this sort of stuff. You get the idea. Again, the goal here is not, is this the coolest app that's ever been created? No, it's not. But hopefully,
if you work in PR, you live in that scenario. It probably is the coolest.
It might be the coolest app ever. So I think the point here is, and I will bring it home. Actually, let me quickly check in on how. Oh, nice. Okay, it's done. Wow, watch this. Hold on, I'm going to show you this just because I love this stuff. Let me show you this. Share screen.
What's so cool about this though is like being able to see the creation itself. It's like little old me who failed algebra twice in high school, who is actually building cool apps. It's crazy. I'm still blown away.
It's really awesome. And so look, it's been how many minutes since I ran this initial thing? It's even telling me this was 5 minutes ago. So hopefully you guys can see that literally in just 5 minutes, we made this thing and it's on my computer. I could use this every Monday if I wanted to. If that was my job, I could do this every Monday. And so the last thing I want to share, and then we'll get into more questions. I see some stuff coming in the comments. The last thing I want to share is back in the slides, which is just like to kind of bring this point home. Like hopefully Michael and I have kind of whetted your all's appetite to vibe coding, but doing more with data. Like I showed, remember, like my whole demo and actually both of our demos revolved around, first there was some level of like data collection. Remember my iceberg. Remember in Michael's case, he went through some combination of ChatGPT and Perplexity to kind of like collect the data before visualizing it in Claude. And in my case, remember I went into Muck and like exported a bunch of data and then visualized it again with Claude and built this little application. But I just want to call out, there's like a couple different ways to do that. One is maybe files that you already own. Many of you probably have Excel spreadsheets and other things around your company that you kind of have and curate. Those would be great sources to give to a vibe coding tool. Exports that you that from tools that you already use would be a great thing to consider introducing to your vibe coding tools. The open web, you can instruct your vibe coding tool to pull from live information. That's kind of similar to what Brito was doing in his demo as well. And then there's this other thing, and now this starts to get into a little bit of technical jargon, so I want to be careful and I don't want to scare anyone away, but APIs and MCPs, all these are just companies who publish these ways for computers to talk to computers. And for example, Muckrack, we actually have an API where if you're a Muckrack customer, you can get all of your coverage that you're collecting about your brand in Muckrack. Like you can just connect to that via API. So think of all the cool stuff that Michael and I just shared that we were building. Imagine if you could connect your like Muckrack feed of coverage to that thing, the world's your oyster. So
Matt, can I just say one thing on this? Because one of the things early on, and I'm curious if you did the same thing, is a lot of PR people were saying, oh, can we use ChatGPT to monitor media and like articles? And so, the whole web search conversation. And I just want to like you to be careful. Like you can create like, in ChatGPT, you can create a task to scrape the, any net new articles about whatever topic or brand, it's not 100% accurate. It's not even close, because it's going to give you articles that are weeks old, months old. So there's still, again, I wouldn't say, again, you might just continue to push it and look directly on like Google as an example. And many PR folks do that. But it's not, don't just take the AI's word at face value. If you say, every morning I want the latest articles. I even tried to write this, in ChatGPT, create a custom GPT, and there's something called actions. And I tried to build this API that would pull from Google News, because I thought that it would be a better kind of source. But even then it came, there was a lot of good data in there. I got a lot of like the latest articles, but there was always some outliers and some irrelevant articles. So just be careful. Like, don't, always review the output with AI, in whatever you're doing and using. I wanted to just share that, just on the topic of, media and, tracking, company articles and coverage and things like that.
Yeah, of course. And I don't, I won't beat that horse any further here, but like, that is why, I think, as Michael's calling out, like, be careful what you pull from the open web. You can oftentimes be at the mercy of how Google ranks things, and whether that's, all the coverage or not all the coverage or whatever. But like, that is kind of where these APIs and MCPs come in. It's like, for some companies, it's their entire purpose to just create an API that gives you the latest weather in any city. Like, there are companies that just will give you the weather in any city. So rather than asking an AI system to guess the weather in a city, a better approach is to kind of connect to these APIs or MCPs so that you can just hear it directly from the source. And as I mentioned, just one last plug of like, Muck has an API that if you're vibe coding any tools in PR and comms and you want to connect directly to coverage about your brand, you might consider using the Muck API for that, because of course, we're monitoring the whole web for all these sorts of things. So that's our fun. And I do see we have some things in the chat. So maybe we can, I don't know, I'll just maybe go back to our lovely mugs, and then we'll kind of address some of the questions in the chat. Okay, maybe I'll do this one. In PR and comms, where and how do you draw the line between AI-generated direction and human verified accuracy? Thank you, LinkedIn user. I don't know, Michael, you want to start with that one?
I'll start, because I work in the service industry. We work with clients, so we have to be very careful at what we send to clients as it relates to copy and content, as well as analysis. And so, we have, there's a governance model that lives at Zeno that says, here's how to use AI, here's how to verify everything. There's a human layer for everything. And so, but I do think that there's also some, there's levels of verification needed, right? If you're writing an email, probably don't need verification, but you want to check it. If you're analyzing a PDF file that you've uploaded, and you're inquiring whether or not a company name was mentioned, or your CEO was mentioned, or a data point, you probably want to verify it. And there are things you could do in a prompt that says, show me the verification, which page, which line, what have you. Or which URL, as an example. But I would say it's extremely important, because there's a lot of AI slop on there. It's all over LinkedIn. You can tell, even some emails that I get, it's like, okay, you can use it for email, but train it to be your voice and not use words like in the realm of, because that's definitely AI generated. That would be my feedback.
That when you saying in the realm of reminds me my other favorite trending giveaway now. I mean, everyone's big on those, called the M dashes, the wide dashes, but the other favorite one that's popped up so much now in the AI slop is when they say, it's not this, it's that. They'll say vibe coding isn't just a way to flex your muscles as a PR pro. It's also a way to show the world why you matter. It's that's my favorite giveaway. But to add to Michael's point here, I think actually we didn't plan this, but a perfect way to think about kind of the the safe space and, you know, the overview or the human kind of fact checking on the AIs. Think of kind of the difference between Michael's demo and mine too. Like in Michael's, the AI was actually doing some summarizing and kind of making opinions of like what things were key areas to focus on, and it was almost like making claims. It was doing work that one might call a little bit subjective in a way. That's a perfect flag for like, okay, wow, if it's doing some subjective work, there's nothing wrong with that inherently, but like let's double check it. If you think of what mine was doing, I created this tool that was based on a bunch of data that we got from somewhere else. All the tool was really doing was just giving me a layer to kind of like interact with the data. So it didn't make any of that stuff up. It didn't fabricate it. All it was doing was helping me organize this data. That's the type of thing that, like, you know, I would, for me personally, I would feel a little bit more comfortable just kind of like trusting it and letting it rip. Because I know that that data came from an external source elsewhere. This application just helped me manipulate it. Cool. All right. What are some downsides and things to be careful of? Pitfalls. Thanks, Jeff. Well, certainly I'll start off with one. I don't know if everyone's social media sphere is the same as mine, but one that is just very top of mind in this whole space right now is, while yes, you can do a lot of what Michael and I showed with free tools, the fact is these tools get better as you pay for the paid accounts, whether that's an account with your company, an enterprise license, or a personal account. And more as these models get better and better, it costs more and more money per what's called a token. A token is essentially just a word that goes in or out of the model. And even as it's thinking, and it's maybe not showing you any output, but it's thinking behind the scenes, that's all taking tokens. So a huge kind of conversation out there is like, are these things going to start to get runaway expensive? Like, you know, that little app that I just created there probably costs, 3 cents. So that's, no big deal. But as you're building bigger and bigger things, they can get kind of expensive. So just a cautionary tale, something to be aware of is make sure you know how to analyze within the admin panel of any of these tools. Make sure you know how to analyze how much they're costing.
Yeah. I'll just add that, there's still a bias of the engines also, when Matt was saying how in the output from my prompt, it was very subjective, right? It, making claims, or even just or tagging an AI response as being positive or negative, right? And so what I like to think about is, and this is fact, which are the models were developed by people, and those people have bias, and the models have bias. And if you work in the political sphere, the models have a left-leaning bias. They've actually admitted that they do, and they're trying to make it more neutral. Yeah. So just again, keeping that in mind is important, because sometimes just little words matter. Words and phrases and how you position and frame things matter. And if you understand that the models have a bias and the outputs have a bias, you also have a bias. But then again, the client or your business. Just use that filter before you produce or create anything or send it to a client, for sure. I see another good comment that came in.
A future webinar, I'd love to get insights on how to deal with. Oh yeah, that's a whole juicy topic.
There's a lot of them out there. They've actually existed for a long time. And they weren't necessarily all AI sites, but these sites that use like AdSense and trying to monetize and game the engines. Yeah. And all they do is they reproduce or recreate content that already exists, or they would hire writers through like Upwork or Fiverr or along those lines for really cheap. And then there'll be these content machines. And those don't typically show up. They typically didn't show up in Google, and they don't really show up much in AI. I haven't seen some of those sites that I used to see in the results, but that doesn't mean that they won't in the future. But that's a super interesting topic. I'm curious though, Matt, because you guys are indexing all of these media sites. Do you have filters that then say, you know what, this isn't even a legit. I know you have a verified media counter, but how do you guys deal with that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we definitely have our verified filter, and we have within Muckrack, we have a little check mark both at the outlet level and at the journalist level. One of the things that we wrestle with is the worst thing to possibly ever do would be to claim that somebody who's actually writing an article, a real human writing an article, would be to inadvertently claim that the content was AI generated. So one of the things that we're looking at a little bit behind the scenes is just, can we kind of categorize and systematically look at content where they actually disclose that it's AI generated? Because a lot of players do that as well. They'll say like, hey, this article was written with the help of AI. But the other thing I want to point out is that also kind of like within Muckrack, we also in Muckrack will call out how visible various outlets are to AI systems. So for example, I will actually just share the screen here really quick. Let's see, let me get that going again. Okay, cool. So if I just share this, I think this is a roundabout way to answer the question, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So I just searched for a brand. I searched for Boeing, as I used to work at Boeing, and as my first employer, and I owe them everything that made me a good engineer. So what's cool about this is you can see these little sparkles here next to individual outlets, and even next to individual journalists. That's a way that at Muckrack we're kind of filtering like how visible are these either people or outlets to AI systems. And so that's just another way to Brito's point. We don't see those kind of bad acting content producers show up in AI citations much. So, or another way to say it is, they don't have a lot of Muckrack sparkles. So yes, like, the short answer, I think, Aaron, your question is great. And I think it's worth a whole other topic. But one thing I would say is, fortunately, those sites, although they do exist, they don't seem to get a lot of pickup. And one of the ways that we can quantitatively measure pickup is, do AI sources look at them? Are AI sources using these to learn about the world? And the fact is, they're just not. So at least for now. So that's at least one good thing. Seems the top use cases of AI for PR and comms, setting basic productivity aside, is research, market, competitive, and content. Are there any top use cases showing promise?
I mean, I don't know if GEO is, I mean, that's part of it. I mean, that's, not just monitoring the search engines. I think also from a PR lens, the way that I use it is to identify new outlets that we not have known about. Like a client, you have your top 50 media list. Are there other outlets that either we ignored or didn't really kind of consider? Are they highly influential in certain models or all the models? So it's a way to kind of identify net new media lists, etc. is one. I think the competitive research one is also interesting, like identifying stakeholders, right? And there are tools that do this for you, like a tracker or a Insight IQ and kind of the creator area. But even like for executive comms or some type of crisis related comms, being able to identify stakeholders in academia and NGOs, it's good for that. I would say as a starting point, right? And it's going to require a little bit more desk research, but it's the one thing I love about AI is it gives you a starting point to build on.
And yeah, just to add to that, two quick notes that I have. Man, I am on a screen share absolute tear here. But one of the things, just to back up the point that Michael mentioned, is we actually did some data collection around this, and absolutely the trend is absolutely what Michael suggested, is that the journalists and outlets that AI is looking to sort of like feed its responses tend to be a little bit different from the journalists that are, sort of classically pitched to and classically thought of as being the sort of like top of media list share. So that's certainly an interesting use case for AI, is trying to figure out who are those journalists and outlets that AI is looking to, and how can that influence my strategy. Another cool thing that I've been starting to think about a little bit more recently too is this idea of synthetic audiences. So kind of like almost if you have a message, or if you have a piece of content, actually building whether it's a custom GPT or even just doing it heavily through a prompt of kind of saying like, hey, I'm going to go into detail and describe either a persona or a demographic or like a target user, whatever kind of vernacular you want to use. Describe a real person in detail. Like even just pick a person at your company and be like, I'm going to describe Michael Brito, and I'm going to see if I were to have this press release. Hey, AI, can you help me see how would Michael Brito react to this press release? That's kind of another cool thing. Is it perfect? No. It's not as good as a focus group. No. But it is cheaper than a focus group. And I think it's another kind of cool use of AI, is testing out messaging or testing out content and seeing how these different personas, or again, the buzzword here is synthetic audiences, how they might respond to something.
Yeah, there's a lot of free data too. Like if you just do a search in like a Perplexity or Claude for like Gen Z audience behaviors, file type :PDF, you should get a list of PDFs that you could download directly. You can upload all those PDFs to a project. A lot of companies like GWI and Resonate and Kantar will publish these findings. They're not 100% in depth, but they're giving away a lot of free data to people to entice them to pay for it. But if you get like 10 or 15 reports from McKinsey and all these different reputable companies, drop them into a custom GPT or a project, and that could be part of this is my audience. It's Gen Z, or it's Gen Z, or it's executives, and you could drop in emails or drop in pitches or messaging, brand messaging in there to see how they would respond. So there's a lot of really innovative things. It's not perfect to Matt's point, but it's a starting point, especially for somebody who doesn't have a big team or budget.
Yeah.
Cool. We need a part 2, Matt, for sure.
Yeah, we do need a part 2. Let's keep it coming. I like it. And it's funny too. I mentioned right when the chat opened, I mentioned that we're at tornado risk, and I don't know, it's gotten dark. It's dark outside, so the timing couldn't be better. I think so. We're right at about time here. So I'll close on behalf of Michael and myself. Thanks everyone. This was awesome. Great questions. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope like we said at the opening, Michael and I both kind of remember when we got bit by this bug. And so hopefully for at least one person out there, this kind of represented. Am I about to say I hope you got bit by a bug? Yes, I am. I'm about to say I hope that everyone got bit by a bug on this call, and that you go and you explore these tools. And so with that, I think we will close. Any other final thoughts you want to share, Michael?
No, I just appreciate Matt, the partnership on this, and Muck for just kind of helping bring it to life. So thank you guys, and would love to do it again.
Cool. All right. Thanks everybody. Cheers. Have a great rest of your day. Stay safe out there. Bye.